Hello, team. Good day. Thanks for joining the sessions. So today's session, we are understand the step by steps of the C# compilation process. So the .NET, like we are trying to understand the .NET concept here, uh, what is .NET, and this session is dedicated for to understand background threads which is taken care by the C sharp code, and it will convert into IL convert into a native code that is called as a machine understandable code. Machine understandable code is nothing but operating system understandable code. So we are trying to understand those concepts, how it works in the backgrounds, how where we can see the native codes, where we can see the native codes, the IL codes, how it's convert our code, language code into a native code. Okay, so in detail we can go through these sessions. Hope you will get the more clarity on the .NET developer in the backgrounds, how whenever we are running the code, whenever we are compiling the code, which process, which object has taking the responsibility to convert the codes. Okay, so a lot of things we can see here. And one more thing, like if you have any clarification required after completing this video, you can put your comment, or you can mention the or call or observe or mention the numbers. Okay, happy to discuss or the call in details. But my agenda here is like instead of like we are doing as a chat GPT environment. Okay, the fresher developer goes to immediate action and do the chat GPT, but they have not in the depth knowledge how works in the backgrounds, because they have the COVID period student guys. So okay, you need to if you want work in the company for larger level of companies, last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Okay, you required a basic understanding. Principal knowledge is required to every developers. So the agenda here is like to understand the .NET compilation process, how we can do our course. Okay, so let's start, guys. Come on. So first things, C sharp is a high level language. We can say always C sharp is a high level language code which is managed by the .NET platforms. Okay, C sharp is a language, object oriented language. We can say high level language which is not understood by the machine. So the .NET framework has introduced one CLR feature, and the CLR is managing the whole compilation process which is understood by our machine. Okay, so here the high level flow, imagine. Okay, so let me share my screen. Hope is my screen everyone. Okay, I will open the here notepad plus plus. We can understand the flow of the high level flow. Okay, this is your C sharp code which is written by the .cs file. Like for example, hello world, addition of two numbers. Okay, so here the first steps. Okay, that is called as IL. We can say the intermediate language, intermediate language. Okay, so IL, who is converting our C sharp code into IL code, the language compiler. Okay, which compiler? Language compiler. And if I'm going to C sharp, there is one compiler called as a language compiler. His name is called as a csc.exe compiler. Okay, so this is the first steps. We need to write the C sharp code, the C sharp compiler, which is .csc, or Rosnil compiler has a responsibility to convert that C sharp code into a IL code. IL code is nothing but your DLL and the EXE. After compiling each and every application, the background, the DLL file was created. And inside the DLL file, we have the skeleton of the applications. Okay. So just like curiosity, we will create one small applications and we can understand the step number one. Okay, the .NET compilation process has belongs to two steps. First step is convert your C sharp code, which is high level code, into a IL code. Okay, so this is the step number one, and the step number two, IL code we can convert into a native code that is taken care by the GIT compiler. Okay, so that is the second process. Before going to the second process in details, we can see in a step number one how we can convert our C sharp code, which is high level code, into a IL code, and where I can see that IL code into my programs. Okay, there are multiple external packages, external software where you can the assembly of your codes. Okay, but just see, we'll open the Visual Studio here. Okay, we'll create a one small application inside the .NET Core. Okay, make a .NET Core application here. I will give a step by step compilation process. Okay, the program name should call as a step-by-step compilation process. Try to understand how it works in the backgrounds. This is a very low level video, I can say, very principal level video who has works on as a .NET developer. They need to understand how our object, how our program is executed in the background. It will convert into a native code because every operating system is low level code understanding. That is called as a native code, binary formatter codes. And if you see in the market, multiple languages, C Sharp, Java, Python, those languages has defined into a high level language, which is not directly understand by our operating systems. So that is the gap between our high level language and the machine level language. So there is a concept called as a compilations, compile the application. Okay, so this is I have created one simple applications. Okay, managed by the Microsoft team. They have given the basic template where they have predefined the line that is called as a console dot write line hello words. Okay, the first steps st- in Notepad. If you see the first step, we have written the C sharp code. If you see console dot write line, this is a C sharp code we have written. Now the language compiler csc.exe will be a wake up here and it will convert the IL code. Okay. How it's convert? Whenever you are compiling the applications, okay. How we are compiling the application? We need to go to the build and the build solution. Okay. Once this application has compiling, there is a one status will be called if successful application is compiling the code as a build success in the left side bottom corner. Okay. So here the status coming is a build success. Okay. After compiling the process, the program has created a one DLL file and a one dot PDB files. Where I can find, you need to go to that particular location where the program has created. We need to go right click on the project, open folder in the file explorer. Okay. Inside the this there is a one folder called as a bin. Inside the bin we have folder called as a debug. Inside the 9.0. So this is the DLL file, the step-by-step compilation process.dll.pdb file. Okay, where we have store our IL code, intermediate language code, intermediate code. We can say the common IL code also, common intermediate language code. Okay, so how we can decouple, deassemble this DLS? So there are multiple software like we can decouple this particular DL code. Okay, it will not given the full code, but you can understand your the skeleton of your project like function name, method name. Okay, how we can? There is one step. There are multiple steps to decouple that code. Okay, IL code. So we can go with the one simple tool which is given by our Visual Studio, where we can see the IL code. Okay, how we can see? We need to open the Visual Studio command prompt here. Um, Let me, if you see the developer command prompt from the Visual Studio 2022. So you need to find this developer command prompt, okay? And there is a one command called as a ILDASM, okay? ILDASM. So you need to put that particular command, okay, into this developer command prompt, and after putting that particular command, you need to extract, okay, drag that particular DLL into that particular window. So command name is IL, that is called as the intermediate language, and we are deassembling. So we can put DASM, okay, the assemble of that particular assembly. Okay, after putting the enter button, so there is one window coming as called as a intermediate deassemble. Okay, so you need to like going to that particular location which is presented or the created a DLL, we need to drag that DLL into a IL DASM folder. Okay, so this is the IL code the our C sharp compiler has created. Okay, so this is the manifest. If you see the manifest, inside the manifest we are putting the all assembly information, that is called as a culture information, assembly name, version, copyright. Okay, if you see here the class private, okay, the custom instance, which is not our high level code also, and which is not native code also. It's a intermediate code, which is we can store into a .dll file. And inside the DLL is nothing but your assembly. Assembly is nothing but your manifest. Okay. Manifest, which information we are keeping into a manifest? The assembly information. The assembly name, version of GUID, unique identification number of the your assembly. Okay. So this is the intermediate code we can see. So this is the step number one. Hope guys you can understand step number one. It's a simply, but the .NET developer they can not goes in details. So this is the one way we can read the IL code, okay, by using the command prompt. Okay. Then another step, I will close this one. I will close this one. The command prompt also I will close. Okay. Step number one we have clear the language code, high level code, which is we have written high level code inside the C sharp. Then our language compiler will be a come into a picture, that is called, the name is called as a csc.exe. This csc.exe will taking the responsibility to convert high level code into a common intermediate language, CIL. Okay. Now the step number second, the native code, like the IL code is a not native code and it's not a high level code also. The IL code is only understandable by the CPUs. Okay. So second steps, we need to read the IL code and convert into a native code. So so this activity is responsible by the GIT compiler. Again, there are three different GIT compiler. We can create another session for the GIT in details, the pre-GIT, IGNU GIT, and the normal GIT. Now we can see the normal GIT, which is common process every program has used. But depends on the use cases, there are different GIT compilers we can use. The second step, the read the IL code, okay, and it will convert the GIT into a native code. Okay, so native code that is called as a binary code. We can say the binary code, which is machine understandable code. Okay. So the first step, high level language, who can taken care? CSC. Okay. Once the IL code has generated, the JIT compiler come into a picture and read the data from the DLL and convert into a JIT, convert into a native format. Okay. So the conversion of the native code, you need to run the application into a debug mode. Okay. We can see here, I will put the debugger point here. Okay. I will run the applications. How we can run the application? Just run it. Okay. Once you are running the applications, there is a one tool where we can find our native code. Okay. But in a runtime process on server process, it will generate it automatically whenever we are hitting the applications. It's a normal process, but I'm like trying to say where I can find the native codes. That's why I have put a debugger point. Okay, the Visual Studio itself, we have the facility where we can find the native code. Okay, so I have put the debugger point here. I need to go to the debug menu. Okay, and inside the debug menu, we have the Windows menu. Inside the Windows, we have the one menu called as a deassemble. Deassemble means we are trying to reading the data from the DLL. And who can help us? The GIT compiler. IL code is what is meant by IL code? This IL code is not a high level code and not a native code. That is called as a IL. Okay. Now, if you see here the disassemble information, now you can see here the this is your native code. Okay. If you are not visible this option, you need to go to the right click and there is one checkbox called as a show code height. Okay. Now if you see the post, this is your actual code which is written by the high level language. But if you want to like see the native code, you need to click on the show code byte. Okay. Byte means 0 and a 1 format, binary format. So this is a binary formatted code which is for this particular lines. So this is the way we can find out our native code. And who has taken the responsibility to create a native code? The GIT compilers. And JIT compiler is understanding the high level language. The answer is no. Okay. GIT compiler is understanding only the intermediate language code, which is created by the language compiler. And what is the name of the language compiler for C# language? CSC.exe. So this is the high level process, guys. We have converted into two steps. High level code converted into IL by using the CSC compiler, language compiler. And again, the IL code can convert into a native code by using the help of CIT compiler. And where we can find the board code. I have already explained the tools by using the developer command prompt, and another one is the via the debug modes. So this is the whole life cycle of the compilation process. Whenever we are writing the program, it's not a responsible to run the write the code and run the application, but you need to aware about the in the detail in a principal way. Okay, how works in the background, which process has involved here to convert our program. Okay, so these are the process, guys. Hope you can understand the terminology called as a CIL, common intermediate language, nothing but called as a intermediate language, where it's created. Okay, who has created a IL code? The language compiler has the responsibility to create the IL code. Okay, but if you want to see the IL code, you run the developer command prompt for Visual Studio. There you can run one command called as a कमांड का नाम क्या है आपको ILDASM, intermediate language deassemble, where we can see you need to drag that particular exe into that IL assembly window where you can the developer tool can use the IL code. Okay, that is the step number one. And the step number two, Whenever you are running the applications, the JIT compiler is backup, which is managed by the CLR. CLR managed by the .NET Core package or in the .NET Framework package. And these two parallel different version is managed by the Microsoft. Okay, so this is the high level process, guys. Hope you can understand. If you have the more clarification required, you can subscribe the IT Boost Up channel, or you can call to mention number. We can happy to discuss over the calls. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Have a nice day.